Hi, this is Rebecca Mueller, Director of Enrollment at Holy Family Catholic Schools, here with Katie Tracy, our tuition coordinator. And we know these are uncertain times, and with the current health climate, we had to unfortunately cancel our tuition assistance help nights. So we thought we'd try a virtual tuition assistance help video. Before we get started, I do just want to remind everyone that the application deadline is approaching fast. April 15th is the application deadline, and we encourage everyone to get their applications in as soon as possible to meet that deadline. Even though schools are closed, Katie and I are still working. We're still available to help with questions and to help you file your tuition assistance. So please reach out if you need anything, and we'll give you our contact information at the end. But yeah, Katie, do you want to get started and show everyone how to submit the fax application?
Absolutely. So to apply for any type of tuition assistance, you do need to complete a fax application, and we're going to walk through that today. But even if you live in Illinois or Wisconsin, or you make more than the income guidelines for STO, we still encourage you to apply if you need tuition assistance. The tax filing deadline was extended to July 15th for this year. The April 15th deadline is still the fax deadline. So we encourage families to apply now. There is going to be a second round of July 15th, but we want to make sure we get as many applications in now as possible. So we will go ahead and start looking at how to find the fax application and then how to actually complete the application. So let me get this first screen up here. To find the fax application, you can go to our website at holyfamilydbq.org. And if you go to admissions and then tuition assistance, you can find information about all types of tuition assistance that we offer and the steps on how everything goes. But like Rebecca said, everything starts with a fax application. So right here, it's going to take us to the website. So for anybody that applied for fax previously, you're going to sign in. So if you click the green button, it will ask you to enter your username or email. And I always encourage parents to log in using the email address they used last year, and then the password. If you don't remember your password you set up last year, you can click on the Forgot Username Password link, and fax will email you to reset your password. So this is for anybody that's applied previously for fax. For any new families, you are going to click the gray box that says Create an Account. Here is where you'll put your email address. If you don't have an email address, you can click the blue link at the bottom. However, fax will snail mail you any notifications. So it will take a lot longer to get your application complete if you don't have an email. So once you actually get logged into fax, you're going to come up with the application, and this is page 1, which is schools. Now, if you're new, you will need to click on the plus sign that says Add School, and the easiest way is to put our zip code in, which is 52001. So here you're going to enter in every school that you're applying for. So if you have a kid at Wahlert, one at Mazzucchelli, and one in elementary, you're going to add all 3 of those schools.
And Katie, it's important to point out too to our families that may be considering Holy Family but haven't yet made their decision that they can still apply for tuition assistance. You don't need to be officially enrolled or registered to file for tuition assistance. So one thing I like to tell families is go ahead and complete the application so you kind of have an idea of what your total tuition bill would be if you would enroll. And another thing to note is if you are undecided between the elementary schools, that you can just choose one, and if you decide that, well, the other school is a better fit, those funds will follow you to the other Holy Family elementary school. So you don't need to be definitive on the elementary school, as the aid will follow wherever you go.
Perfect. Thanks, Rebecca. Those are great points. The next page is going to be the applicant screen. So this is all your information. Anything with the red asterisk is required. And I'm just going to point a few things out at the bottom. It asks for social security number. Now, if you don't have a social security number, you can still apply for fax. You will just need a unique 9-digit number. So some parents use their phone number minus their last digit, but it is not, you do not need a social security number to apply for financial aid. Another couple of things to point out is we have a lot of families that are divorced or separated or never married. It's important that whoever is responsible for tuition completes a fax application, and it's going to be for your portion of tuition. So if you pay 50% and your ex pays 50%, you're each going to complete your own fax application with just your information on it. And there's a question here that asks, what percentage of tuition are you responsible for? So you're going to select whatever percentage that is. If you're married and paying tuition together, it's going to be 100%. But if for anyone who's separated, divorced, you're going to click whether it be 100%, 50%, whatever your divorce decree says. Another question on here is, please select your parish. Tuition is charged based on if you belong to one of our Catholic supporting parishes. And also something else we use this information for is parishes sometimes have tuition assistance available. So if you need additional help, we know exactly what parish to send your application to. And then the last question, are you a resident of Iowa? This just tells us what bucket of funds your award's going to be from. So if you live in Iowa, it's going to be from STO. If you're Iowa or Wisconsin, Illinois, it's going to be Holy Family Funds.
Yeah, that's an important call out, Katie, because I know a lot of our families that come to us from Illinois and Wisconsin might at first tell me, well, I'm not going to apply for tuition assistance because I won't qualify for STO, which is true, but you have to start at the fax application, which calculates a need, and then the calculation is then filled with a different bucket, like you said, not necessarily STO, but whatever you would have gotten through STO if you would have lived in Iowa would be filled through a local family, Holy Family funds.
Perfect. All right, so the next screen is going to be co-applicant. It's pretty straightforward. You're just going to enter in the co-applicant's information. And
you would not need to complete this if you were a single parent, correct?
You're correct. So it's going to be based on the marital status question that you answer. So if you're married, it's going to automatically ask for co-applicant. If you put single, divorced, they won't even ask you this. And something else I forgot to mention, if you see a little blue question mark, you can click on that and it will give you additional information. So some questions have that. All right, the next page is going to be students. So here is going to be where you add all of your K through 12 students. So anybody you're applying for tuition assistance for. You're going to click on the gray box and it will open up more questions for your student. It's going to ask for next year's school and grade level. And this particular question always throws parents off. It says, how much of this child's tuition can you and or the co-applicant pay? This is a required question, but it is not taken into consideration for your award. So it's more an FYI to the schools. So if you can only pay $100 towards tuition or $2,000, whatever you can afford in tuition for each student is what you're going to put in there. And then this bottom question is kind of ties back to what we already talked about. Do you share tuition responsibility for the student with an individual not included on this application? Again, each person has to complete a fax application for their portion of tuition.
And one thing to point out too, Katie, that I always tell our new families, they might think, well, I'm for sure sending my sixth grader to Mazzucchelli, but I don't know about my third grader. I would encourage you to include information for every student that you might possibly think might be enrolled in the fall. It is much easier to add students the first time and return aid if you ultimately decide that they won't enroll, rather than trying to add them later, because there's going to be less funds available to give. So if you are filling this out and you're still not quite sure, include the students that you're even considering sending to Holy Family. That way you have a better idea financially of what aid will be available to each student, even if they ultimately decide not to go.
Perfect. And like Rebecca said, if you do apply for a student and they end up not coming, those funds are returned so another family can use them. So there's no harm in having them on there just in case.
Yep.
All right, the next page, it is an additional question. This just is an acknowledgement that you have to check for each student, which basically says pre-K students are not eligible to receive financial aid. So tuition assistance is only for K through 12 students. So all you have to do is click the checkbox and you can go to the next page. Now this next one is taxable income. It's going to ask how many adults and children are living in the household, if you receive income reported on a W-2, and then it asks, do you file a U.S. federal tax return? If you put no, you can still apply. It'll ask for the reason why. If you answer yes, it's going to ask, what is your adjusted gross income from the most recent tax return? So if you filed for 2019, it is going to be that line that says adjusted gross income. That's the dollar amount you need to put here. Now, if you have not yet filed for 2019, just do your best guess and put on here what you made in 2019. If it's off a little bit, that's no problem, because when you do upload your tax return, fax is going to use that information as opposed to this answer. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. And then it's going to ask, do you own any of the following? Business, rental property, partnership, farm, S-corp, or estates and trusts?